Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're doing a masterclass on the super fast-paced world of air freight. Seriously, think of this as your ultimate study guide. We're going to break down everything you need to know from the key players to the critical calculations. So let's start with a question. What does it really take to get a package from Mumbai to New York in just 48 hours? I mean, it sounds simple enough, right? But behind that quick turnaround is this incredible, complex dance of logistics, international law, and some very, very specific math. Let's pull back the curtain and see how it's done.
To really get this, we're going to follow our package on its journey. First, we'll meet the maestro, who makes it all happen. Then, we'll look at the single most important document, its passport, if you will. After that, we'll get into the numbers and calculate the price of all that speed. And finally, we'll cover the rules, the risks, and what happens if things go wrong.
Okay, first up, the maestro of movement. This is the freight forwarder. They are the absolute linchpin in this whole operation, the expert who orchestrates the entire journey from the moment it leaves the warehouse to the moment it arrives.
So what exactly is a freight forwarder? Well, the best way to think about them is as a travel agent, but for your stuff. They don't actually own the airplanes or the trucks, but they have all the connections and the know-how to figure out the best routes, the best carriers, and the best prices to get your cargo where it needs to go, both safely and on budget.
And what's really fascinating is that the forwarder is basically wearing two hats at once. You can see here, for the person sending the package, the exporter, they're doing everything from booking the space on the plane to handling all that tricky customs paperwork. But then, they're also working for the person receiving it, the importer, by tracking the shipment, handling the import customs, and arranging that final delivery. They really do manage the whole show.
All right, let's move on. You know how every person on an international flight needs a passport? Well, cargo does too. And for air freight, that passport is called the Airway Bill, or AWB. It is, without a doubt, the single most important piece of paper in this whole process.
And this thing is so much more than just a shipping label. I mean, look at this. It's a legally binding contract. It's proof that the airline has your goods. It's an invoice. It's a customs document. It's all of those things rolled into one. And that last point is critical. It's non-negotiable, which means it's made out to one specific receiver and can't just be signed over to someone else.
Now, if you're studying for an exam, this is a big one. You have to know the difference between a master and a house AWB. The Master Airway Bill, the MAWB, is the contract between the airline and the freight forwarder. It might cover a whole bunch of different shipments all consolidated together. Then the forwarder issues a House Airway Bill, an HAWB, to each individual shipper. The key takeaway, with the Master AWB, the final receiver has a direct legal relationship with the airline. With the House AWB, their relationship is with the forwarder. It's a subtle but really important distinction.
The AWA actually comes in a set of copies, but 3 of them are considered originals with legal weight, and they traditionally even have different colors. The green one stays with the airline for their records. The pink one physically travels with the cargo and goes to the person receiving it, and the blue one goes back to the shipper as their proof of the whole deal. Each one has a job to do.
All right, let's talk about the part everyone's curious about, the money. How much does all this cost? Well, it's not as simple as paying by the kilo. In the world of air freight, it's all about a constant battle between how heavy something is versus how much space it takes up.
And this brings us to one of the most important concepts, chargeable weight. See, an airline doesn't just care that your giant box of styrofoam peanuts is really light, they care that it takes up a ton of precious room in their cargo hold. So they calculate 2 different weights, the actual weight on a scale and its volumetric weight. And guess what? You pay for whichever one is higher.
And this is the magic formula. You need to commit this one to memory. You just take the dimensions of your box in centimeters, length times width times height, and you divide that number by 6,000. That little bit of math instantly converts the volume of your box into an equivalent weight in kilograms.
Let's look at a real-world example. So you've got this package, you put it on a scale, and it weighs 30 kilos. Not bad. But then, you plug its dimensions into our formula, and you get a volumetric weight of almost 71 kilos. Since 71 is way bigger than 30, the airline is going to charge you for 71 kilos. And that is exactly why packing your goods as tightly and efficiently as possible is so important.
So, airlines also use a tiered pricing system. You can think of it like buying in bulk at a warehouse store. The more weight you're shipping, the lower your price per kilogram gets. These different tiers are called breakpoints. You can see here, the rate for shipping over 500 kilos is way cheaper per kilo than the rate for just over 45.
And this is where things get really clever. This is a pro-level trick that freight forwarders use all the time.
Check out this math. A 95 kilos shipment would actually cost more in total than just pretending it's a 100 kilo shipment. Why? Because that 100 kilo mark gets you into that cheaper per kilo pricing tier. It's a bit counterintuitive, but you can actually save money by paying for weight you don't even have.
Okay, so our package is all priced out and ready to fly. But what about the rules of the air? And what happens if, something goes wrong? This last section is all about safety, liability, and making sure you're properly covered.
So you obviously can't just throw anything you want onto a plane. The UN has 9 official classes of dangerous goods. These are things that are either banned from air travel or require really specific packing, labeling, and paperwork. We're talking about the obvious stuff like explosives and flammable liquids, but also some less obvious things like dry ice, which falls into that miscellaneous category.
Now for the scary part. What if your package gets lost or damaged in transit? Well, the airline's liability is not unlimited. Not even close. It's strictly limited by international treaties, mainly the Warsaw and Montreal Conventions. And this text right here is the kind of fine print on the contract that points to those rules which caps how much an airline has to pay out.
And here's the number you have to remember: 22 SDR per kilogram. SDR stands for Special Drawing Rights. It's basically an international currency basket that works out to about $20 US or so. So think about it. If your 10-kilo box with a brand new $1,000 laptop inside gets lost, the airline's maximum liability under the convention is only about $220. That's it.
So how in the world do you protect something valuable? Well, you have to formally declare its value on the airway bill and pay an extra fee, which is called a valuation charge. Essentially, you're paying a little extra to raise the airline's limit of liability for your specific shipment. It's like buying extra insurance, so you're covered for the full amount, not just that tiny standard rate.
So there we have it, the incredible journey of a single package. It involves the expertise of a forwarder, the legal power of the AWB, that tricky math of chargeable weight, and a whole web of rules for safety and liability. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In this world that demands everything faster and faster, are all these complex rules just a burden, or are they the vital safeguards that keep global trade flying safely? Something to think about.